What is up, guys? Welcome back. It is Sosa MMA with another video covering UFC 299 O'Malley versus Vera 2, which just happened in Miami, Florida. I'm going to run through the main card quickly, go over all of the results for you. I'm not going to go in depth on the whole card or super in depth on any of the fights besides probably the main event. And expect a video out from me tomorrow morning covering all of that. So let's get started with your main event. Obviously, spoilers ahead for all of those fights, but SUGA Sean O'Malley defends his bantamweight title, and it comes by unanimous decision. On my scorecard, it was 50-44. On one of the judges as well, you had 50-44, but the others were 50-45. You won every round cleanly, and it was a masterclass performance. So in round one, you had the output of SUGA really controlling the show and kept Vera on the outside with his long weapons. But whenever Vera would connect, it would usually be a pretty clean connection, which was kind of the story throughout this fight. Round two was one of the craziest rounds in the fight. The entire fight was crazy. You really couldn't look away at any point because each guy was throwing fight enders. But in round two, O'Malley connected with a knee. You can see it here. That would have knocked out really any bantamweight not named Chito Vera. This guy has an alien chin. I really don't know. He can't be human. It's crazy. This is the 10-8 that Sean picked up for me because he also hit him with a right hand afterwards that wobbled him down to a knee. He was able to stand up pretty quickly, but still that factors into the complexion of that round 100%. And then in the third round, you had kind of the same story, Sean keeping him out at the outside with that teep and being more effective with his teep and long weapons than Chito was. But towards the end of the round, Chito began to land some more strikes, kind of get closer and have some cleaner connections on Sean, but you still score it pretty cleanly for Sean. Round four, you kind of have Vera picking up where he left off in that previous round, really blitzing in on Sean and landing some good kicks, landing some good punches in the pocket, but none of them really appeared to damage Sean, make Sean worried at all. And Sean's movement laterally was fantastic the entire fight off of those front kicks, never really letting Chito set up on him, but always being able to set up to land his own damaging strike. So while this is the closest round of the fight, O'Malley ended up landing, I think it was like 45 significant strikes or something like that to only somewhere around like 30 or so for Chito. So closest round of the fight, and you could possibly score it for Chito, but I think that you do have to give that one to O'Malley as well. And then round five, right at the beginning of the round, you have a stiff jab from O'Malley land, which makes Chito back up. I don't know if it was because it hurt his eye and made it to where he couldn't see and he was worried about the eye, or if it like seriously stung him. But you had O'Malley taunting in that round. You had Vera shelling up against the cage and not really being able to throw much. He did have a knee attempt that came extremely close and a front kick attempt that came extremely close, but O'Malley was just able to move directly out of the way of those just by a little bit each time, and his command of range proved too much for Chito Vera to handle, who lost clearly on every judge's scorecards, and it was a masterclass performance from SUGA Sean O'Malley to right the wrong of that last fight. And really, like I said, if any other bantamweight was in there against him, he would have finished them, which is why I firmly say that if that version of SUGA Sean O'Malley shows up to fight Merab Dvalishvili, you can put me down for SUGA Sean O'Malley right now. Remember in round one against Henry, even though Merab dominated that fight, and I thought it was an incredible performance from him, he got clipped by Henry Cejudo, dude. Sean O'Malley will clip you. Sean O'Malley's footwork will be hard enough for Merab to be able to get in, and he's going to finish Merab over the course of 25 minutes. The only way Merab can stop himself from getting finished is to finish Sean O'Malley earlier than him, and he hasn't shown us that ability on the ground or on the feet yet. It's not that he couldn't do that, and championship stakes, bring the best out of everyone. But if that version of Sean O'Malley shows up to fight Merab Dvalishvili, and still is what I'm going to predict there. Now, this was the greatest moment for me throughout the card. All the BSD riders were glazing him so hard. He came out as a favorite, and he looked like a favorite early on against Dustin Poirier. It was scrappy, and it was a war the entire time. Well-earned fight of the night, even though it went as short as it did. But essentially what ends up happening, you have Benoit pick up round one on my scorecard and everybody else's, I believe. And he was keeping his pressure on Poirier. He was getting him against the cage. He was succeeding in his grappling attempts because Poirier kept sitting on guillotines for some reason, which, again, as John Anik pointed out during the commentary, he's never finished a fight by guillotine, even though he sits for them all the time. So maybe one of these days he'll get it, but it wasn't this fight. But the finish comes in round 2 with Benoit trading with Poirier in the pocket and getting caught with some nasty strikes. An uppercut lands and drops him. Don't know how that didn't put him out, but eventually Poirier does find the strike that sits him down. And Mike Beltran was a little bit too far to stop the fight immediately, but you see Poirier land this right, and it clicks Benoit's jaw to the side. He's out right there on his feet. You could stop the fight immediately, but Poirier landed one other one before Beltran was able to get involved. Fantastic performance from the Diamond. Don't know why he was an underdog in this fight, to be candid with you. Pretty disrespectful to him. And he's never lost 2 in a row. That trend remains the same. The crazy thing is that with his star power, he's probably 1 or 2 wins away from fighting for the belt again. Really excited to see who they match Poirier up with next. But moving on down the card, Holland versus MVP proved to be more entertaining than I thought it would be, for sure. So the walkout for Michael Venom Page stole the show, rather. It was badass. He did an Undertaker walkout. He didn't have a earn for Kevin Holland, which perhaps is why he didn't get the finish tonight. But he did win 29-28 pretty cleanly, I feel. Round 2 goes to Kevin Holland, but rounds 1 and 3 go to MVP. You had MVP covering the distance beautifully behind his long attacks, especially jumping in with that right hand and stinging Holland several times. You had him going for some crazy jumping strikes throughout the fight that in certain instances had him in compromising positions against Holland as well. You also saw Holland employing his grappling here in a way that I didn't really expect him to. I would have expected him, if he was going for the grappling, to really just be trying to take MVP down, get him on his ass and go for a submission, but he really did a lot of grappling against the cage and didn't get a whole lot done with it either. I felt like Holland won the second round, but it was close. I'm trying to remember what exactly happened in round 2, but I don't recall all of the specifics of it. But the main thing is that Holland got rocked several times by big shots from MVP. Never to the point where you were really concerned he would get finished, but certainly to the point where MVP won those rounds that he did quite clearly. This fight, the next one, was pretty incredible. You had Gilbert Burns taking on a Jack Della Maddalena that was Gilbert Burns was incredibly game in this fight. I felt that Jack Della Maddalena had won the first round, but you had people scoring it for Gilbert as well. And then Gilbert pretty cleanly won the second round as well. So you could have Gilbert up 20-18 going into the last round, or he could just be up 1-1, rather in a draw scenario there. And that third round be the decider. But with about 30 seconds left in the fight or so, no, it was earlier than that. Yeah, so let's see. There was 1:17 left of the round, I guess. So around that period of time, Burns grabbed a takedown. He was on top of JDM. He was controlling him. He was landing some shots, but JDM managed to get up with a little bit of time left on the clock, and Burns immediately goes to shoot a double leg right after that. And JDM read it perfectly and landed a disgusting knee right on the jaw of Burns. I don't know if it connected with the knee or if it was a little bit higher up on the leg, but it doesn't matter because he rattled his brain hard and then swarmed him with ground and pound. I would call that a late stoppage too. He ate a lot of elbows. He looked fucked up afterwards. He was bleeding a ton from his nose and looked very out of it. Didn't really like that stoppage one bit. But it was a fantastic performance from JDM, pulling it out of fire when he was about to lose that fight. Incredible performance from him. And then the only pick on the card I missed, because in my video I did predict Holland, but last night on my verdict picks I changed it because I watched MVP versus Mike Perry back, and he's just got that dog in him. So I really felt that he could get it done, which he did. So that was a great change from me. This was the only one I missed on. Song Yudong versus Peter Yan to open up the main card, and Song Yudong looked incredible in the first round. I thought that he won that round pretty clearly, but in round 2, Yan was landing the better strikes. He landed a takedown of his own and was also able to stuff all of the takedown attempts from Song Yudong, which was super impressive. But by the end of the fight, the damage that Yan had accrued over Song was pretty evident. And he also continued to keep the pace that he'd established in that second round after kind of starting slow as he tends to. And he also was able to score another takedown in round 3. So he picked up a unanimous decision, which is a great win for him to be able to bounce back here. And then quickly, because this video isn't too long yet, I will cover Curtis Blaydes defeating Jailton Almeida by TKO in round 1 of the featured prelim as well. This was round 2, rather, I misspoke. Almeida in round 1 was spamming takedowns at Curtis Blaydes, and his chain wrestling looked phenomenal. He was able to get him down at will, pretty much. But I made the joke at the table, the bar that we were watching the fights at, that Curtis Blaydes strategically threw round 1 and let Jailton Almeida get all of those takedowns to set up his winning strategy. So right at the start of the second round, he goes in on a single, and Blaydes has his left underhook, if I recall correctly, dug deep in, and with the right hand, he's just throwing these hammer fists, shades of the elbows that POIRIER was throwing at Yuri in their fight back at 295. And I could tell it was like really, really bad shots. You see guys get hit there a lot in lower weight classes staying in on a takedown, but I don't feel like I've seen it in these higher weight classes until these 2 fights recently, all that often in recent memory. And you could tell by the time he had taken about 6 of those or so that it was going to be really bad. And then eventually he kind of slumps over to the side. I think he was probably already out by that point, but you saw Curtis Blaydes land a couple of more to secure that win by TKO. And what an incredible win for Curtis Blaydes in a fight where really you felt that he should be able to win this one, but he might fuck it up because that's what Curtis Blaydes do. He really came through and performed. But talking about coming through and performing, this card was incredible. It lived up to all of the hype. Not a single matchup on this card fell through somehow. And stacked it was, stacked it stayed. That was an incredible night of fights. And the 4th highest grossing event in UFC history. The highest one not involving anybody named Conor McGregor. That was pretty incredible. The only other thing that I'll talk about is SUGA Sean O'Malley's call out. He did say that he would knock out Merab if that's what people wanted to see, but then he did go back to his Ilya call out. You did have Dana shutting that down at the post-fight presser, but it'll be interesting to see what exactly we see there. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. What did you think about UFC 299? Who had the best performance in your opinion? Like if you liked, subscribe for more, and comment down below. Thank you so much.